Hey, what's up, team? Jason Steyer here. I hope everybody is having a fantastic start to your Tuesday. Um, and staying cool out there. It's hotter than hell here in Texas. At least the humidity is about to drive me absolutely insane. But we were staying indoors and out of that. I played golf on Sunday, and it was miserable. I will never do that again. But that being said, we were nice and cool here in the VA Boss headquarters. But anyway, I wanted to follow up from the post from yesterday evening. Some of you had asked about, closing costs for VA loans. I know that's, borrowing that. So we'll start kind of at the beginning. I'm going to give you a couple of examples of that. It's a little known thing. Most people don't utilize it. Most LOs don't know about it. Most underwriters would probably, for the lack of a better term, probably call you crazy for even asking or say no, simply because they confuse or may think that FHA and VA have the same rule on that. Now, FHA allows for secured funds, but the VA is a little more lenient to that. And we'll talk about a couple of examples, good and bad, to give you some context, because I think this requirement, like my friend Stephanie had mentioned on that post, is that it requires discretion. And it's up to us to provide that discretion, because I promise you there are a lot of loan officers out there who will probably just say, yeah, everybody can do it. It's a free-for-all type situation. And that it's not a one-size-fits-all type thing. We have to be we have to pick and choose. And sometimes we have to make that call, and it's okay. I'm willing to do it, because what we are not here to do is set people up for failure and put them in debt. We have residual income calculations to consider. And things of that nature. So, if you have a borrower, let's say it's an active duty service member, and I'm going to give an example that I had back a couple of months ago, and they were active duty and PCSing, and they were selling their home. They had most of their equity and their assets tied up in the net proceeds of the house they were selling. Well, just so happens that, shocking, I know this is going to shock a lot of you, that it got delayed, the closing of their house. And so they were using the proceeds from that sale for closing costs on their new home. So we talked about that, and they went to their bank and borrowed, I believe it was, I think it was like between 10 and 11,000 to use as closing costs in their new transaction. Now, here's the caveat. Great credit, great residual. Okay, low DTI, that's a factor, even though VA is not a DTI loan. It's something we still have to look at. Is this going to create or put them in a bad situation going forward as far as their debt load? For them, it didn't. Their DTI was still below 40%, great residual. Their plan was to pay that back after they got their net proceeds. But even if they didn't, they still have plenty of room. Okay, so we got their loan, they used it, checked everything, we counted the new payment, their DTI and residual, and went on down the road and was able to close, counting the new payment against them. Even that, they still qualified. Even closing before they had we had to look at entitlement. We had to look at all those things. They checked. Okay, I'm going to give you the example of how that doesn't work. Okay, so let's talk about the complete opposite of that. Had a client who was coming back from an overseas deployment, actually. And they didn't have any money. Okay, they didn't have a house to sell, they didn't have any assets, no TSP, no gift from family members, none of those things that we exhausted all these options. Well, credit was edgy at best. Residual was okay. They still would meet the residual. But if I look at them and I'm looking at them as a whole, no savings patterns, no nothing. They are in a completely different category than somebody who checks all the boxes with residual, DTI, high credit, things like that. Because here at the end of the day, whether LOs out there like it or real estate agents agree with it or not, we have to be the ones to make the call, whether we think that we're putting these people these borrowers, these active duty service members or veterans in a position to win. If we are inundating them with debt, They have a ton of maxed out credit cards, a ton of new credit and installment loans and all these all these different things. We have to look at the entire thing. So the weight of that, it was on our shoulders, whether we like it or not. And some people out there, no offense to LOs, they don't really give a shit. They're just willing to throw anybody into a situation without even giving it a second look. And you know what? It's a free country. They can do business that way, or they can try to anyway. And sometimes it doesn't always work out. Okay. But what I will not do from a loan officer standpoint, and I know there's a lot of LOs in this group who will agree with me on this. We're not willing to put people in bad positions just to get a loan closed. We're just not going to do it. And my friend Rick Betancourt, who is one of the leaders in our industry as it relates to the VA home loan benefit and his service to the veteran community there in Massachusetts, put a post in one of our LO groups the other day, and the responses were just mind-blowing. He put it out there that was able to do it, and the LOs in there were just like, some of the people in some of the responses with like just the looseness of other people's money and the looseness of whether we're willing to put these people in a position to fail was just still astonishing, even though it doesn't really surprise me all that much, frankly, because some people, like it or not, only care about the next loan that they close, and that's just a fact. Honestly, it doesn't make them bad people, but that's not the way we do things, not the way I do things, not the way our team does things. And there's plenty of other LOs I know that are in this group that would not do that. But it's still a viable option for you. Again, just requires a lengthy conversation. So like, hey, we can borrow it. Okay, sweet. Let's move on. That's not what I'm saying. It requires thought. You've got to check the boxes, create that mental checklist about what you're going through. Because as a company, as the VA, we don't want that loan back. We're not putting them in a position to fail. Now, most of these payments are relatively cheap from a monthly perspective, so it shouldn't affect DTI and residual to that degree. But if you would like to have a conversation about that, I would be happy to do that. Chat on this. Share this with people, please. You can share it outside the group because people need to know these things. In this day and age that we're living in these competitive environments, in this crazy ass time we're in, we're looking for every competitive advantage that we can find. So that being said, let me know if you guys have questions. Keep posting the group, keep asking questions, put out the good information and the bad. Let's discuss. But everybody have a fantastic day. Stay cool. We'll see you guys soon.